everyone, welcome to this grade 9 maths video covering the Theorem of Pythagoras. So this is just a really quick introduction or recap of Pythagoras with a few questions to kind of give you an idea, give you that recap if you're revising. As always, please feel free to let me know in the comments if you have any questions or you want me to do any more slightly more hectic questions. Okay, so Pythagoras is all about right angle triangles, so it should only be used when you have a clearly marked right angle triangle. So you've got this right angle in there, and essentially what Pythagoras is about is we look at the hypotenuse, so this is the longest side. Okay, and it's easy to remember the hypotenuse is always opposite the right angle, so that's what we've got to remember. And a lot of the times we label that as C. So we would say that's C, and then we would have two other sides, A and B. And then you can see our formula is A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. Okay, so Pythagoras helps us to find lengths of missing sides. Okay, so to find the hypotenuse, what you would do is, if you were trying to find C, you didn't know C, but you knew A and B, then you would use the formula just as it is. So you would say A squared plus B squared, and that would give you C squared. Once you had C squared, you could then square root the C squared, and you could get your answer for C. To find a different side, so to find A, for instance, what you would do is you would rewrite this formula. So you would say A squared is equal to C squared minus B squared. You'd work it all out, take the square root so that you could get just A. So you would find actually the square root of A squared is equal to the square root of C squared minus B squared. Okay, these formulas I find always seem quite intimidating when you're working with the formula and not with numbers. So let's look at some examples. So question 1, a right angle triangle has sides 6 centimeters and 8 centimeters. Find the length of the hypotenuse. Okay, so let's draw this. So we have a right angle triangle. They tell us one of the sides is 6 centimeters. One of the sides is 8 centimeters. What is the hypotenuse? Okay, so in this case, we're going to actually just label the hypotenuse as C. And we are trying to find C. In this case, we just use the Theorem of Pythagoras with no alterations. So just make a note, that's what we're using. So Theorem of Pythagoras. And so what we're going to say is A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. Here we've got A is 6 centimeters, so that's going to be 6 squared. B is 8 centimeters, so 8 squared. That is equal to C squared. 6 squared is 6 times 6, so that's 36. 8 squared is 8 times 8, which is 64. And that is equal to C squared. So then if we add that together, we are going to get 36 and 64 is 100 is equal to C squared, which is great, but we don't want C squared, we want just C. So we're going to square root both sides. So square root of 100, and so we get the square root of 100 is 10, and the square root of C squared is C. And so we get C, or the hypotenuse, is 10 centimeters. Which, just always do a little check, make sure that makes sense. If C is 10 centimeters, that does make sense. The hypotenuse should be the longest side, and 10 is the longest out of these. Let's look at another example. So question 2. A 13-meter ladder leans against a wall. Its foot is 5 meters from the wall. How high up the wall does it reach? Oh, English. Okay, so we have got, let's draw our wall here. This is our wall, and then we've got our ladder leaning against the wall. And they say its foot is 5 meters from the wall, so that means this bottom one is 5 meters. The ladder itself is 13 meters long, and then obviously the wall makes a right angle with the ground. So we want to try find this side A in this case. Okay, so this was, they were testing a little bit of your like figuring out skills. So in this case, again, we are using Pythagoras, but we are going to adjust it a little bit. But what I like to do is get into the habit of writing it is the Pythagoras formula straight away. So a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. You can then go and label. So we've got A, we've got B is 5 meters, and we've got C is 13 meters. Let's fill in some values. So a squared, we don't know, plus b squared is 5 squared is equal to c squared, which is 13 squared. Then we can adjust it to find a. So I'm going to take this plus 5 squared across. It's going to be minus 5 squared. So a squared is equal to 13 squared minus 5 squared. So a squared is equal to 13 squared is 169. 5 squared is 25. I'm going to go 169, take away 25 is 144. Again, we want a, so what we're going to do is we're going to square root both sides. So we're going to say the square root of a squared is equal to the square root of 144. So a is going to be 12 meters. Which again, if we put that in there, it makes sense. We have 12 meters, 5 meters, and the longest is the hypotenuse at 13 meters. Okay, and question 3, the last question of this set. So a right angled triangle has a hypotenuse. Let's just draw this triangle. So it has a hypotenuse of 10 centimeters. So remember, this is our hypotenuse here. And one side of 6 centimeters. Find the length of the missing side. So whether you label A or B, it doesn't matter. We're just trying to find this missing side. Okay, so Pythagoras, we know it's Pythagoras. So we know straight away, put your formula down. A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. In this case, we've got A, we've got C is 10, we've got B is 6. So we're going to have A squared, A squared plus B is 6 centimeters squared is equal to C, which is 10 squared. So A squared plus 36, 6 times 6 is 36, 10 squared is 100. Let's take that 36 across. So we were adding 36. If I take it across, I'm going to take it away. So A squared is 100 minus 36, which is going to be 64. As always, we don't want A squared, we want just A. So let's square root both these. So A is going to be 8 centimeters, which in this context makes sense because it is smaller than the hypotenuse. Alright, so that is our 3 questions done. A really brief introduction to Pythagoras. I hope this helped you. Please subscribe if it did help you, or let me know in the comments if you have any questions.